Hello, everyone. This is 2:30, at least on my clock. I'm not sure which end of Europe you're coming, or some of you are coming from a completely different time zone. So we do appreciate your active participation in this. Please come into the room, find your chairs. We're about to start. All right, so my name is Peter Szegedy. I work for the European Commission, and I'm happy to co-chair this session with Spiros from Athena Research Center. Spiros is also one of our contractors, making sure that the EOSC EU node is operational, it runs smoothly and securely for all your benefits. And this breakout session is pretty much a deep dive following up my plenary or whatever federation session presentation yesterday, right? Where we covered what the EOSC EU node is doing, how it supports the federation in terms of onboarding and enrollment. And that's apparently the title of this breakout session as well. And we pretty much go in the same or similar order. So I'll invite the operators of the EOSC EU node to give you a little bit of a deep dive from their point of view, how the operations is happening and what was the lessons and all the practicalities that we went through during the exercise of the build-up group, the Federation build-up group. And then we have, of course, the opportunity to see this from the other side of the fence, how those people who were lucky enough to go through the process with us and either onboarded or enrolled some of their services or capabilities into the Federation, how they perceived and what lessons they learned. And hopefully we can also have a little panel discussion in the end to make sure that you also can ask your questions, or we can actually get some reflections on the presentations. So our first speaker will be Thanasis Karmas from Athena Research, and I'll give you the floor right now. Thank you.
So thank you, Peter. Let me just start with the slides. Do we have the slide deck for the first presentation? Okay, so thank you so much. My name is Thanasis Karmas. I'm a representative of the EOSC EU node. So as you all know, last year it was a major milestone. The EOSC EU node, the first node of the Federation, entered production. This year we had another great milestone, the launch of the EOSC Federation, with the first node walking their first steps in the Federation and the second wave of nodes coming up. As a representative of the EOSC EU node, it has been a great privilege working this past year, both in serving the Federation users with novel services and also supporting the EOSC Federation build-up phase by cooperation with most of the node candidates. So the EOSC EU node, in its first year of operation, has served a lot of researchers and scientists across Europe, namely more than 4,000 active users, featuring 30,000 visitors. The growth of the user base has been steady throughout the year, with top 10 visitors originating from Sweden, Germany, France, United States, Italy, Spain, Greece, Netherlands, Belgium, and UK. Access to the EOSC EU node services is determined by automated access policy, which is based on user attributes originating from the user's home organization identity providers. The breakdown of users per access policy level has been stable throughout the first year of operations, and namely 29% of users have view-only access on the EOSC EU node, 50% of users have access to most of the services, and 29% of users have full access to the EOSC EU node services. It's worth noting that there are currently 2.8 million credits in circulation available to be consumed in all of the EOSC EU node services. There are available in the EOSC EU node Resource Hub about 161 million research objects available for discovery, and this marks a 24% increase for the respective available research objects available last year. All the services are provided with uptime greater than 99.5%. We had no security incidents this past year, and we have handled over 1,000 help desk tickets directly facilitating our end users. User feedback is quite important in our operations, and we treat it very carefully and effectively. Based on the user feedback, we have a continuous stream of improvements that have resulted in improving both the services and our access policy throughout this year. By offering more services to more users, we managed to reduce end-user friction and produce better documentation and training material. Also, this continuous improvement stream has led to many achievements, learnings, and insights for all the core federating capabilities that the EOSC Node supports, and this has proven quite helpful and quite important for also the support we provided during the EOSC Federation build-up phase. Before going on to more details on how we supported the build-up phase, it's worth mentioning that a new release of the EOSC Node has just been deployed in production, further improving our offerings. A fully redesigned UI UX for the front office and across services, having a project-centered approach as its core capability that is streamlined to use, making it easier to find what you need with clearer language. We have more credits available for all users and groups, and we have better alignment of the EU Node services to the user needs. Namely, the file sync and share service is now a perpetual service that's renewed automatically without the user having to do any user action. And the virtual machines and OKD medium environments feature more CPU cores at the same credit cost. Last but not least, we have guaranteed credit grants for all EC-funded projects, namely 4,000 credits per project. Now, focusing on how the EOSC Node supported the Federation build-up phase as the first node of the EOSC Federation. The EU Node serves as a blueprint for other nodes in terms of architecture and open source software. Yesterday, proudly, Peter announced that our open source software is publicly available to the entire community to use as is. The EU Node provides core federated capabilities and as a service offerings to the other nodes, and it supports all the node candidates during the build-up phase. The EOSC Node representatives participated in the build-up group and in sub-working groups, and actively led and co-led the federated WAI and the service catalogs working groups, which mainly enacted the main technical requirements that guided the node enrollment in this first wave of the build-up phase. The EOSC Node representatives also provided one-to-one technical support and consultancy to all the node candidates. The EOSC Node enacted the enrollment of nodes in the EOSC Federation and actually monitored the fulfillment of the technical acceptance criteria and also kept track of the official node registration of the nodes. Last but not least, we provided support for selected node candidates that wanted to onboard their services directly on the EOSC Node, and this was possible by providing support to specific onboarding modalities, and in this way we managed, with the help of all the node candidates, to bring useful services to our users and expand the portfolio of the EOSC Node in this way. Also, the EU Node provided a testing and validation environment for all the node candidates in this particular first phase of the build-up group. Now, regarding node enrollment, the EOSC Node enacted and validated the technical requirements for node enrollment in the first wave of the build-up phase. This spanned the following categories: onboard the candidate node in the EOSC AEI, onboard at least one data source of a candidate node in the EOSC Node Resource Hub, facilitate the node registration in the EOSC Node Contributors Dashboard, and also we bootstrapped content and processes on behalf of the node candidates wherever this was required to facilitate the challenging timeline leading up to the official announcements for the EOSC Symposium. The result of this effort was that candidate nodes successfully enrolled in testing, satisfying all the technical requirements, as it was demonstrated yesterday. And now the next obvious step is to reach production, assuming that we have in place the required operational framework. For the second wave and onwards, a node registration and enrollment process can begin directly in production, assuming that certain operational conditions are met. And also the technical validation still would have to remain in the testing environment until formal acceptance to make sure that everything is in place. Regarding the services onboarding, we also supported candidate nodes in case they wanted to onboard their services directly on the EOSC Node. This was a particular request for some of the nodes because first they wanted to test the waters before officially launching their own nodes and gain adequate experience to do this. It was a chance, an opportunity to improve and expose novel services to a larger audience and bring value to the Federation, as we will see also in the remaining talks. And this was possible by offering to the node candidates multiple onboarding modalities that were created during the EOSC EU node build-up phase last year, in which we created valuable experience and we created specific integration blueprints that help us offer a streamlined integration pathway to all the node candidates that wanted to onboard their service on the EOSC EU node. So we managed to offer a streamlined way that tailored to the needs of each service and managed to find an effective way to onboard the service mapping to the EOSC EU nodes, access policy, and credit model. This resulted in several new services being available on the EOSC EU node at the testing environment for now. These services are the Indigo, provided by CERN, an events management platform. There's a Nodo service, still also provided by CERN, which offers trusted repository capabilities. The Galaxy service, a workflow execution service provided by the NFDI and the Life Sciences node. The Rihanna workflow execution service provided by CERN. And the Escape VRE notebooks extension, also provided by CERN. Last but not least, the EU node file sync and share service is now working cross-node via Open Cloud Mesh protocol with file sync and share services offered by other nodes, namely the SERF node, the Finland node, EUDAT, and CERN. Now, to facilitate both the node enrollment processes and the contributor onboarding processes, a dedicated section of the EOSC EU node is available for all contributors. So this section is the contributors dashboard. All the underlying processes and steps of onboarding and enrolling are mapped and modeled as BPMN workflows with full lifecycle support from initial registration of a contributor or a node to onboarding to lifecycle updates up to even offboarding if it's required. The contributors dashboard is now available only to node candidates in anticipation of onboarding support and modalities also from other official nodes. The contributors dashboard is supported by the dedicated back office team on the EOSC EU node, the EOSC EU node onboarding team, which is ready to provide support and assistance to all the node candidates and all the users that use the contributors dashboard. The contributors dashboard provides the following services. Register as a contributor. This is a capability available for individual organizations who want to onboard resources directly on the EOSC EU node. Enroll as a node. This is a capability that facilitates the node registration process through which we monitor the technical acceptance stages of the nodes, and also we monitor even non-technical requirements in case this is required. Onboard the data source to the EOSC EU node resource hub. This allows us to have available not only the data source, but also the harvested data assets discoverable in the EOSC EU node resource hub. Onboard the service catalog to the EOSC EU node resource hub, which allows both the harvested services and the service catalogs being discoverable from the EOSC EU node resource hub, and more and the additional onboarding capabilities like onboarding the service, onboard the training material, onboard the tool. With this, I'm closing my presentation. It has been a privilege working alongside the node candidates this past year. We're looking forward to learning how to production both the nodes that participated in the first wave and also the services that are onboarded on the EOSC EU node, and looking forward to the second wave of nodes. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Thanasis. Please take a seat in the panel. You should hold your questions until the panel session. So I'd like to invite the next speaker, Jose Benito Gonzalez Lopez from CERN, to tell us about your experiences with onboarding.
Oh, thank you for removing that photo so quick. Okay, let's talk about architecture, shall we? Let's build a couple of bridges. And of course, those are virtual bridges. We're going to be connecting the EOSC EU node with open science services that we have at CERN. We develop, we run, we share. Yeah, so let's see how that goes. This works. So this morning already you have an introduction to CERN, much better than the one that I have, but bear with me for a second, because it's the build-up for my presentation. So CERN is a research lab for particle physics, intergovernmental organization, and we have this huge complex of accelerators, right? Being the flagship project, the flagship accelerator, the LHC that you see there. And here, this circumference of 27 kilometers, in which there are certain points in which the particles collide, and then you have a huge amount of data that gets generated. And actually, right now, in between tape and this, we have more than 2 exabytes. If you know what is an exabyte, you know it's a lot. If you don't, it's a lot. I mean, So CERN is also a large international collaboration, and this has been described already minute one of CERN. In the convention, you can read, the organization shall provide for collaboration among European states. That was in 1953. Also, you could read that the results of the experimental and theoretical work shall be made generally available. So this could be probably one of the first open science descriptions, at least from the CERN perspective. And open science is still at the very core of CERN because we have a solid governance in which all the groups that are participating in open science activities, they get together in a forum called the Practitioners Forum that reports to a steering board that reports to the directorate. All this is for me to tell you that we have enough reasons to want to participate in EOSC, in the European Open Science Cloud, right? So when we applied, as one of the candidate notes, we come up with a two-phase project strategy. The first part of the project was 2025, to do this onboarding of services that we have already running since years in our premises and add them to the EOSC EU node. This is also a learning phase for us. So then we could step into phase 2 in 2026 and explore the possibility of offering resources to others to run and exploit our data and our analysis in a reproducible way, and also offering interconnectivity with all the other nodes. But today we're talking about the first part, so let's look a little bit at what we did. Spoiler alert, you've seen it already in 2 or 3 presentations. Yeah, so we're going to be building 3 bridges. The first one is the visibility bridge, how to make our content, our data, our literature visible in the EOSQ node. The second one is the linking bridge. So how we're going to be doing this linking to services that already exist somewhere else. And the third type of integration is the actually integration bridge, in which I'm going to show you the deployment of services inside the EOSQ node. Okay, the first one, visibility bridge, as I said, is making our research output visible in the resource hub in the EOSQ node. And for that, we were exposing 3 repositories, Open Data Portal, where we expose more than 5 petabytes of data from the experiments at CERN. Inspire HEP is the de facto aggregator for high energy physics, where you find all the literature. HEP data, which contains the data behind the publications, the charts, and the tables in the publications. So at the end, what we did is, you can see there a screenshot of our Open Data Portal, and what we did is to make sure that this content goes through OpenAir into the EOSQ node. The process, simple. Basically, we register ourselves in OpenAir Provide. That's quite straightforward. Second step, they're requesting us for an OIPMH interface. This is a standard protocol for harvesting, right? And then voila. OpenAir is starting in the indexing, and suddenly the content shows up in the resource hub. So as I said, lessons learned, simple process for repositories, not that simple for aggregators like Inspire HEP, because we are collecting from many different sources, so we have many different PIDs, and there were some complications there, but through a good collaboration with our OpenAir colleagues, we found solutions for this as well. Future work, now that this bridge is established between the EOSQ node and our repositories, how we can increase the traffic in this bridge, right? So we would like to put more metadata to enrich the content that you can find now in the resource hub, and potentially also statistics. So views, downloads, you can also see it in the resource hub. Right, second bridge is the linking bridge. So here is pretty simple. It's basically, we have services that are already running elsewhere, and it makes no sense to redeploy them in the EOSQ node. Those services are Zenodo and Indico. Do I need to explain what is Zenodo? Who knows what is Zenodo? Okay, let's move on. And Indico, I will not ask, but this, Thanasis already explained it, is an event and conference management system that enables to organize events like this event. And it contains also a lot of information that is relevant scientifically, because you have posters, presentations, proceedings. So obviously, the first thing we did is integrating with AAI. That was done for both services. And then those services are also visible in the EOSQ node user space. Peter already spoiled my video yesterday, so but basically you're going to see it again, in which you can see that I'm logging in with my credentials into the EOSQ node, and in a second I'm going to land in the EOSQ node user space right now. You can see that Indico is there as one of the options in the menu, but then you have also another menu called Deposit, in which you find Zenodo. And whenever you click Zenodo, we're going to go out of Zenodo, out of the EOSQ node. We're going to end up in Zenodo, and in the right community, we are going to a particular community, which is the EU Open Research Repository, and you can see on the top that I'm logged in. So this is actually just the first step, because now that this bridge is built, then we can imagine future collaborations in which potentially there could be automatic deposition in Zenodo after some analysis was successfully run. Lessons learned. In principle, it was easy to configure and to set up this, also thanks to previous work that we've done in some European projects with OpenAir. And it works pretty well with OpenID Connect. As I said, for some advanced features, we might need more things in the authentication system, like grouping and so forth. But also the good news is that we've done everything in the underlying open source platforms, Indico and in VineyardDM, which is the platform behind Zenodo. So I know that many of you are running your own Indico and your own in VineyardDM, so you can use that if you, in the future, you want to connect also with the federation. Another kind of linking is the one that we did to link the file sync and share services. So those services normally, well, they're collaboration spaces that we use to manage our files in our organizations, right? Like, for instance, at CERN, we use CERNbox. And what we did is to connect them with the federation in a way that we can share files in between nodes, like, for instance, between CERNbox and the EOSQ node. There was also a very nice video yesterday, so I don't need to go into much more details, just to say that this is possible thanks to the open standards that we use, like Open Cloud Mesh, that we are actually leading the standardization on that aspect. And it's very significant. It's got a lot of impact in the research and education sector in Europe because there is a huge community behind, like the CS3 community. Future looking, oh wow, I'm bad in time. Future looking, this can be much more than just sharing files. We could also be exploring in the future sharing apps, which is something that we are already doing at CERN. Last bridge, integration bridge. This is directly installing two services into the compute resources of the EOSQ node and also integrated with their access policies and credits. So it's more or less like the tier 1 services that come by default with the EOSQ node, but different. Tier 2, this. So Rihanna was already presented in the demo, but very quickly it's a platform that allows running and executing scientific workflows in a declarative way. So basically you say, this is my data, this is my software, this is my workflow, run it for me, and you don't need to know about the complexity behind. The VRE is a Jupyter-based integrated ecosystem that is organized in a plugin way, so it's extending the Jupyter notebooks with plugins to add more functionalities. So what do we do? Well, Rihanna, as I said, we onboarded as a tier 2 service. So basically, in the dashboard, you can see, you can find Rihanna there with a number of credits that you're going to get charged if you use it. And when you click and you launch your workflows, what is going to happen is there are going to be some containerized scientific workflow that is going to be running with whatever workflow you want to use, CWL, SnakeMake, for instance. And then you're going to get the results, you can expect it, and you can share it also with your colleagues. One nice add-on or consequence of working together in EOSC is that we enhanced Rihanna. We extended to allow the distribution of workflows across nodes. That was the demo that Giovanni, my colleague Giovanni, did yesterday, right? And this is quite important if we want to solve the case of sending computation closer to where the data is. It doesn't make sense to move petabytes up and down when you can just send the code, right? Lessons learned. It was actually a pretty smooth technical experience because the EOSQ node and us, we use similar technology, and there are good docs as well. Also, we were very happy with the possibilities to interconnect and interoperate, right? For some cases like adjusting the user quotas in Rihanna, we just created an API that was used by our colleagues from the EOSQ node web portal front-end office, and voila, it's problem solved. Future work, now that there are higher t-shirt sizes, so maybe we can scale our demonstrator as well, and also support a little bit better the user roles. When it comes to the VRE, what we did is we got our plugins from our VRE, and we install it into the Jupyter notebooks in the EOSC node. So now there is a particular flavor for these notebooks in which you can go and you can access data management services via a technology called Rusio. So there is a metadata catalog of our data lake, and then you can find your data, you can transfer it to your notebook and access it and use it. Also, it's integrated with Rihanna that I explained already, so you can run these complex workflows directly from the Jupyter notebook. And work in progress, you could potentially publish this in Zenodo from the Jupyter notebook. Lessons learned. AI has a central role, more about this in a sec. And we were very happy with the flexibility of our VRE, so it was pretty easy to move these plugins over. Future work, expanding the data lake, giving access to more content, but also coming again to the AI, we would like to enable introspection mechanisms for authentication to have a better and more smooth integration of our data management systems, right? Right now it's not quite there yet. And of course, adding Zenodo extension. Last slide. I think we have a proven integration, right? We successfully onboard a key number of services from 3 different points of view, giving visibility to HEP data and literature, linking to standard services, or also integrating or installing directly into the EOSC node. Lessons learned is that, okay, you require some technical expertise to do this, but it's doable, it's feasible, and it's not necessarily extremely complicated. AI is still a cornerstone. I mean, it's good that we can already log in and interconnect, but as I said a minute ago, we need this token introspection to make it more seamless. And looking ahead, a reminder, this is all in the test instance, so we need to look now how we can move this into production. And finally, just to say that if any node or any future nodes want to learn more about this, we are always happy to collaborate and share our experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jose. I think it's a brilliant strategic move from a large international research organization like CERN. I just wanted to comment, if I may, that I'm not sure you captured, but there are 3 different flavors of onboarding here. When it comes to Zenodo and Indigo, that's onboarded to the EOSC node, but not hosted on the EOSC node. It's still hosted at CERN, right? So there's this redirection link. When it gets to Rihanna, it's onboarded to the EOSC node and also hosted on the EOSC node, so it's a full service over there. And when it comes to ESC VRE, that's a hybrid. Some part of it, which is a Jupyter notebook, and Rihanna is hosted on the EOSC node, but the Rusio backend is hosted by CERN. Right? So you can do onboarding, does not necessarily mean that everything needs to be also hosted on the EOSC node. Those are 2 different things. That takes us to another interesting use case. Obviously, you already heard a few things about Galaxy, which is already a large federated application domain. So how EOSC as a federation can tap into something which already a widely established large federation as such. Probably Björn will tell us about that from the Galaxy point of view and also from his home organization and the German node point of view. Björn, please.
Yeah, thanks for the nice introduction. So I will talk a little bit about NFDI and how NFDI was onboarded on the use case of Galaxy. So just a few words about NFDI. So I guess the easiest part, even if not 100% correct, it's kind of a mini EOSC. We try to capture in Germany all different kinds of research domains. And we have these different also, I mean, we call it consortia, but you can think of mini nodes, and they also capture physics, social science and humanities, the biology or medicine domain. And you have all these people working together on research data management and trying to improve the research data management landscape in Germany. And that is called NFDI, and that's the EOSC German node. And yeah, there are more than 300 member organization institutes with more than 1,500 people. And it's yeah, a state-funded project now running since, oh God, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. And these are the consortia that you have seen, and I mean, as I said, there's life science, natural science, humanities and social science, and engineering science. And they are all coming together in these 26 consortia. And there is a specific one as well. This is based for NFDI, where we try to bridge these consortia with things that we think most of these consortia will need, right? Like a PID service, like ontologies. There are trial runs of, can we have a Jupyter Hub, for example, for all these NFDIs. So the usual stuff where we think most of the consortia have benefit, have then services in this base for NFDI. Yeah, and this is NFDI on a glance. So if you think of these consortia and the interconnection, you will get such expertise network that we are calling it. Yeah, and it's a huge beast. If you want to learn more about that, please visit us at the NFDI booth and ask us all kinds of questions. So during the build-up phase of EOSC, I mean during this year kind of, we tried to onboard Galaxy into the EOSC EU node. And as the previous speakers already said, so the first step is always the AAI service. So we added this magic button there for EOSC AAI, and you can now log in the testing phase via this button as well. And you see there are already a few buttons, so we add this as well, and maybe at some point we can consolidate that. But this is now working, so if you are part of the testing phase of the EU node, you can actually test this button. This should work. Thanks a lot for the support that we got here to get this implemented. But as been said, this is just the first step. So another interesting thing is what we tried is now, can we host a Galaxy instance on the EU node? And for this, we also had help from EGI, that is another contractor of the EU node, to my understanding. So they helped us writing this Tosca template and get it deployed. And now you have actually in the Tools Hub, in the EU node, you have this Galaxy as a kind of these tools or application. So if you log in into the EU node, you actually can browse and you see then Galaxy, and you can start your single user, your own Galaxy instance and mess around with it. Yeah, so when you have a Galaxy instance, you can then install tools, upload a workflow, and then run on it on EOSC EU resources. This is how it looks like. So you are on this Tools Hub. You see this Galaxy EU node. What will happen in the background is that this Tosca template will deploy in a VM, and in the VM it will start a few containers, and then yeah, it will give you access to this Galaxy application. Another different use case is, can we onboard services that are actually running somewhere else, as Peter just said? And this is this kind of use case. So we already have the European Galaxy instance. If you go to Use Galaxy EU, you will actually see a web server that is running, that is supporting by multiple entities like Elixir and the Life Science Connect node, by NFDI and many others. And if you go here on the Workflow tab, you will see in the test environment of the EU node now, on the left hand, this offering, this service. So if you click there, you will actually be redirected to an external service, the European Galaxy server. This is a multi-user instance, so there are more than 100,000 users that are all interacting with each other. So it's a complete different use case, and it's also running on complete different resources. And on the right side, you see kind of a catalog of workflows. So if you click there, you will get redirected, and you will actually see, I have actually images for that, yeah. So you will actually see kind of a workflow catalog with more than 100 community curated and validated and actually tested workflows. So you can pick there a workflow, click on run, and then you are redirected to Galaxy and can then run your workflow. So this is all now in the EU node, so this is all working. Then maybe a more complicated workflow, which is also this kind of mixture that Peter mentioned. You can also now go to the EU node start a service that is called Pulsar, which is just kind of a compute element. So you get a virtual machine in the EU node with some specific compute resources. You go to your public Galaxy server, wherever that is. That can be the European Galaxy server, the French one, the Belgian one, whoever. But now you can connect your favorite Galaxy server with the compute resources in the EU node. And all of a sudden, Galaxy can submit now jobs to the EU node. I mean, your jobs, not only your jobs. So you can kind of now harvest the compute, the credits that you have in the EU node, and actually just top up your Galaxy instance wherever that are. We call that bring your own compute. And again, that's a collaboration also with the contractors of EGI and also in part of the Euroscience Gateway node EOSC project. So one of them is a link. So if you get the slides, you can click that, and then you see there actually a YouTube video how this is working. Yeah, and this is kind of the third way how you can all connect these different resources that you have as a scientist. And maybe at the fourth point is about storage. So in theory, if you have now the storage in the EU node, and this is, I think, its own cloud-based, or was it Nextcloud? Own cloud, I think. You can now connect your own cloud instance of the EU node via the WebDAV protocol with Galaxy. It's not 100% working yet because we need the API key, but we are currently working on if this is possible with a single sign-on, or if the own cloud instance in the EU node can be configured to give us an API key. But essentially, we can also now integrate the storage of the EU node in any Galaxy instance. So it doesn't matter if the Galaxy instance is actually running inside the EU node on Surf or somewhere else. You can then harvest the storage as well as the compute. Yeah, and with that, this is then how it can look like, right? You have a lot of these repositories, you plug them into Galaxy, and I just want to highlight these BERT for NFDI, because BERT for NFDI is the underlying platform is an Invenio RDM, and as we have learned, Invenio RDM was just recently enhanced to work with the with the AAI of EOSC. So, and because BERT is an Invenio RDM, so that's a very nice integration. So it's an Invenio RDM that is hosted in Germany as part of the NFDI of the German node, and this can also be now plugged into any Galaxy instance, so people can easily exchange data as well as the Nodo and so on. Yeah, and with that, I think we are on the conclusion side. So I think we could demonstrate that we onboarded several different use cases. Yeah, these wherever you harvest the resources, you can all plug them together. We could, I think, show that we enhance the digital sovereignty by leveraging different EOSC nodes and the EOSC federation on its own. Right? We can bridge out, we can get storage, we can get compute from elsewhere. And I think it was a relatively smooth technical onboarding, so thanks a lot for the ENN help desk and for all the support that we got. And I think it was also very pleasant to just reuse technologies that we all know already, like OpenStack, OpenWebDAV, OIDC, right? So this made everything very pleasant and very doable, actually. Yeah, I'm a little bit hesitant with the credit system, but I mean, now it's working way better. In the beginning, it was a little bit struggling, but I think we learned lessons learned, and we topped it up now, or you topped it up now twice, so that's pretty cool, I think. So, what did we learn? Onboarding is possible with experts on both sides, right? So you have assistants, and you can get that done. We can build this together. I think that's also something that, yeah, we could show and we can be proud of. And I think what is also very important, we can learn from each other, right? As the previous speaker already said, we actually improve our software as we go. We release it, and then all people have more from that and can run it elsewhere. So looking ahead, support onboarding by shared libraries maybe, right? So can we make it the AI integration even more simpler by integrating it in the broader Python ecosystem or whatever? This is something that is at least on my to-do list. Reuse more abstraction layers and share that between the communities. Yeah. how do we maintain this? How can we create and maintain these people network, right? How can we sustain the people behind that and the knowledge behind that, and how can we keep that alive? That's something we need to work on and that we need to think about. Yeah, and the biggest challenge, in my opinion, is how do we make actually our end users aware of this? How do we explain what is actually possible so that they don't reinvent the wheel or so? So this entire outreach and bringing people into these services, I think we need to improve and we need to have a strategy. And with that, back to you, Peter, I guess.
Thank you very much, Björn. Indeed, a very interesting presentation. It shows that you only have to do a couple of things, but you have to do those things right. So those are the basic core functionalities, the double AI, the metadata, some open APIs, and that suddenly opens up an opportunity for a tremendous value creation of all these workflows. So that's really good. We often too much focused, I think, on the value creation, and we forget about the basics. I think you have to put your basics right, and then you can get such an achievement that you have. Our next speaker would be Asta Matur from the Life Sciences node. Those guys like each other and already gather together in a cluster node as such. So that is, again, another viewpoint maybe that you might want to bring in, Asta, please.
We'll certainly do. Thank you very much. Yes, so very happy to be here and share with you our experience on trying to form a life sciences node in the EOSC and how to actually serve the users that are part of our research infrastructure better through the EOSC. So let's get started. So I will talk through, first of all, a little bit of the introduction on the EOSC Life Science Connect node, some of the challenges that we faced while doing this exercise, as well as certain opportunities that we are looking forward to making use of during this process. All right, so I am going to start by going a little bit into the timeline of how things happen for us. So like Peter said, we do like each other and we decided to work all together. But how did that come into being? So of course you all know that there was an open call for all the stakeholders who are interested in being part of the EOSC Federation, all the 4 organizations that are currently part of the Life Sciences Connect node applied separately. And then we talk to each other because, yeah, it's important, especially from a thematic point of view for all the life science nodes to research infrastructures to understand what is it that we want to offer through the EOSC, how can we make the best use of it. So we came to an agreement of working together, forming this candidate node. And yes, in February we got a go ahead on working towards it, which is something that we're doing right now. All right, so I'll start with a little bit of introduction about the structure of our node so that you understand a little bit better what are, well, like I said, the challenges as well as the opportunities of coming together. So when we came together behind an idea, the idea of creating a space for the life sciences researchers where they can access, discover, use, and reuse the data that is being produced, make use of services that all of us are offering, and also in a connected fashion, right? The idea that you have your service and you can make use of data from different sources and so on. So that was very valuable for us. Of course, these kind of integrations are relevant for the life sciences, but also not just limited to the life sciences. So this is really one way for us to open up the doors for the researchers to interact with in a cross-domain fashion. And this is one of the reasons why when we thought about it was not just about providing data or providing services, but also being able to consume infrastructure and services that are available, whether through the EOSC EU node or through other nodes in the EOSC Federation. So this has been the driving factor for us. And giving a brief introduction on the research infrastructures involved. So first of all, we have 2 Erics on board, the Zero Bioimaging Eric and Instruct Eric. We have S3 projects like Elixir, as well as the international research organizations like EMBL. So very diverse, also within our structure and our organizations. Together, we cover approximately, I think, around 30 member states that have come together for all existence of all of us collectively. And we're talking about 500 different sites that are, and very interestingly, we are producing data as well, because some of us are actually providers of instrumentation too. So when we start to work with the users, we actually cover the whole spectrum of the data lifecycle, from production to data management to sharing and making services around that data and making that available. So it's really this whole life cycle from a very user-centric point of view, from a thematic point of view. That is what we are trying to cover and trying to achieve through our efforts in the EOSC Life Science Connect node. All right, so this was just a diversity of our organizations, right? But we also have a diversity of data and the services that come along with it, right? So on one hand, we have a very detailed molecular and structural data from different technologies. We have imaging data that covers everything from microscopy all the way to human imaging technologies, more biomedical technologies. We have biomolecular data from multi-omics data from different sources, proteomics, genomics, and so on, and correlative and multimodal data from different technologies, upcoming technologies as well. So really complicated pipelines of data production as well as data sharing. So this kind of makes it very well-rounded and very diverse in terms of the kind of data and the services that we are all together offering. All right, so when it comes to the expertise and the services, the different research infrastructures bring along very many different things, but I think our strength lies in the fact that we have actually come together to put all these services together so that we can get not just a broader interoperability, but also a deeper interoperability when it comes to life sciences topics. So we have consultation services, like analysis services, stewardship services. We have services that go all the way from instrument, like tracking metadata from instrument while the data is being produced, all the way from when it's being shared in open repositories. And very importantly, we have those open repositories on boards, like we have community databases, we have core data resources, as well as many different infrastructures that actually provide this valuable data with added value to the researchers, and most of it is just openly available for people to use. So how to integrate all that in a fashion that we can add more value to it by making that a part of the EOSC is something that we are addressing. All right, this was more about who we are and what our expertise are. Now let's get into a little bit. Let's get a little bit into what are the things that we are doing towards our participation in the federation. So we are participating in many subgroups, which is basically where our integration into the EOSC Federation is actually happening. So we've been quite active, well, given our very complicated structure and us having some experience with how to work with that in the governance area of the EOSC Federation by participating in the MOU subgroup, as well as the EOSC handbook, as well as cybersecurity. So these are important to provide that robust infrastructure that we want our users to depend on. Of course, there are these federating capabilities that are important and rather essential for users to actually make use of the EOSC Federation. So these include a service catalog and the AAI, and we've been working very closely with the EU node providers to actually make those things happen for our complex infrastructure consortia as well. And of course, I will not spend a lot of time on enabling the science. I've already mentioned that this is it's quite important for us to engage, because with all these diversity of data and diversity of members that we bring on board, we actually bring a diversity of users on board as well. And to make all of what we are doing from an infrastructure point of view a reality for the end users, we do focus a lot on how to enable that science for them, right? So an important part of that is workflows, and I will not get into it because you've heard a lot about it yesterday as well as from Bjorn earlier on Galaxy and how to make use of those platforms for the scientists. All right. Of course, while we're talking about how to pull in our services together and make them available in a meaningful fashion for the end users, we've also had a lot of organizational challenges. Well, of course, the research infrastructure represents many different organizations and institutions. So while we do love working with each other, we do need to sort things out. There are multiple voices that need to be accommodated to actually make it something that is co-owned and everybody feels that they're a part of it. The services must be fairly represented because the service provider are usually the nodes of each of these infrastructures. So how can that be well represented? And of course, the expertise is distributed. So to coordinate all of that at that level of complexity is a challenge, but an interesting one at that. Yes, of course, and one thing that keeps coming back, and of course it's very key for us, is like I was saying earlier, that thematic nodes, the services would be part of national nodes as well, so that adds a layer of complexity in terms of where they belong and how they can interact and what it actually means for the association as a whole. Of course, there's an example of the challenges that we faced was our name, because if you hear me say something different every time, I am still getting used to it because we just got our name in place before the symposium. So, well, now here we are. Okay. Another thing that we see is the governance challenge. Again, it's an active area for us to work into, but it also is challenging on its own. On the short term, we have the lightweight MOUs in place. They were signed already, and this describes the governance and operational models for ourselves. But of course, we need to be careful about the power that it gives to each partner in order to, what it means for committing resources, committing expertise on their behalf, right? And of course, on the long term, if MOU is even an appropriate instrument, or the possibility of other kinds of formulations in order to work together, and the possibility that probably one partner would need to be responsible. So kind of right now we are working together, 4 partners working towards implementing this node, but I think more and more as we move forward, it might need to be one. So what does that mean and what does that imply? All right. Yes, I did say it's not going to be all problems. There are certain definitely opportunities that we can make use of. We have a lot of expertise in distributed governance and operations that we bring. We have a lot of experience in trying to build consensus. That is not an easy one, but hey, here we are. We have a name. I just told you guys about that. Of course, working very heavily towards research, the resource interoperability, because again, these are all life science resources. This is data which can actually benefit from better integration. So this is something that we have already worked towards and we will continue working towards. Broad representation from our side includes everything from geographical, scientific, as well as technical expertise. And of course, we have a comprehensive European networks. We are really linking a lot of experts. Like I said, we have over 500 different sites when we put together all those research infrastructures that are actually part of this node through us. All right. Well, so just to end on an interesting note, in the middle of difficulties lies opportunities. So here we are thinking about how to make use of what we can have from the EOSC Association, from the EOSC Federation, from different nodes. So really trying to learn from different nodes, and this is something definitely that is important for us, and we're looking forward to more conversations on that side. Yep, let's stop with that.
Thank you very much, Asta, and I think this is now time for questions. We've prepared some, but I also see 6 questions now in Slido. I'm not sure you're going to address those or yours. I'll leave it on to you, Spiros, so please lead the discussion and take the questions on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Now, I'm sure you also have questions. If you haven't sent them in Slido already, can I see a show of hands if you have a question, just to make budget the time? Okay, we will continue with the Slido ones. So, thanks everyone. These representatives of the nodes, plus the EOSC node, along with the other node candidates, have been working for 8 months now. Some of you may come in the future as a new node. Some of you may come in the future in order to onboard your service in the CERN node, in the NFDI node, in the Life Sciences node, or the EOSC node. But it is important at this point for these people sitting in front of you to tell you about their experiences in this closed group for the start, right? So, in this first phase, the EOSC node provides the core federating capabilities. So, did we do a good job? How did we support you, right? Was it with technical consultancy? Was it with meetings? With, I don't know. Is there something else that you would need that we should support you with? And Asta?
All right. No, I mean, again, from our side, it's been a lot of work, mostly on the organizational and the governance aspects. But of course, the technical aspects are certainly, so we would need some work on that from our side as well. But I think what is important is this possibility of having the conversations, because some things are complicated. And the only way of solving that, is through a conversation. Like, we have open databases. You can just take all of the entries in that and just index them and say that, oh, here's all the data that has ever existed. Is that useful, though? Something to think about, right? So I think we need a lot of these conversations, and I think having the node and having these people has been important exactly for that, for having those conversations and making those decisions.
If I may, I'd like to add a question from Slido, because it's interesting as well. Having experts involved from the EOSC node side is not scalable. When can we expect technical documentation about how to enroll in the EOSC WAI and use compute? No, I'm gonna take care of the last part. There is documentation, it's published, it's in Zenodo, it's one of the important outcomes of the build-up group. Now, of course, having everyone come around the EOSC node is not scalable, but as Asta mentioned, we need room for these conversations, for this alignment, these discussions, this work. So this is scalability we bring. So, Jose, would you like?
Should I answer the first question that you? So just a comment on this one. Let's not forget that this is the build-up phase, right? So we're still learning how to do the process together. So I guess it's not going to be the same when there are 100 nodes, let's say. But answering your question on how you guys help us in different ways, I think there are at least 3 ways. The first one is you, the people. I think it was great working with you. You were always available, you are technically super competent, so the discussions were just super smooth and to the point, and there was always this feeling that we can help each other and figure out how to reach the goals that we put to ourselves. So that's important, because if people are not able to work together, things are not going to get done, right? Second one is the technology. The technology choice, as I mentioned also in my presentation, it's pretty standard nowadays, and it's what we use also at CERN, so that made it pretty straightforward, let's say. And also there was good documentation, so that helped a lot. The third one is the extensibility, that when we hit corners in which, oh, how are we going to be solving this, then and have this flexibility from both sides to say, oh, I can do these APIs and maybe you can use it and call and solve, like we did for the credit, for instance. That's also important. So there are these 3 aspects. What other things would have been useful to have? I mean, again, build-up phase. We started from the beginning. I talk about a little bit AI and talking introspection and so on. There are things that were simply not there. We didn't manage to do it. Having that at the beginning done by ourselves as well could have been easier, and we could have done better integrations, let's say. But it is what it is now.
Yeah, may all our problems be technical. So I think, I mean, the technical stuff was great. So I cannot say anything against it. I think what we saw also in the last 2 days, also in the Slido messages, is we need to work more on, and this is also what I see in NFDI. People still do not understand what EOSC is, what is the benefit, and so on. And I think this is what we need to solve. The technical stuff, I think with help, without help, with consultation, and when we have been onboarded, we can help others. So this is a snowball effect. So I'm not worried about that. But I'm still, also, how can we talk to our community? How can we make sure everyone understands what EOSC is and what the benefit of it is, and what is the granularity of service that we need to onboard? How many EOSC nodes will there be, right? All these questions, I think this is what we see in NFDI, that we constantly need to talk to, and also need to make up our opinions, discuss it. That's the thing that concerns me or us.
So maybe I want to ask back, like, did we overwhelm you with our questions? Because, you asked if...
You mean for the support we were
Yeah,
required to provide
for the
you?
support that was needed for the first round, for the first wave of nodes. Like, were you overwhelmed by, like, oh my God, all these 13 nodes are just, like, after me or something?
I will tell you the truth. Actually, this process actually helped us improve our own product and improve our processes and the way we work. Because during the EOSC Node build-up phase 1 year back, we had a very strict timeline, so we did a lot of things hastily. We also tailored specific things to the services we had to support at that time. But then, when the node candidates came, we had to take a step back and start thinking, okay, we'll have new services, different types of services that we will not have. So we are forced to make abstractions in both the presentation layer, the APIs, and the backend services. So even though it was quite intense and it was a lot of work, it actually helped us evolve also our product. And also it helped us create documentation for things that were not documented or were not adequately documented. It helped us create full documentation with the motivation to provide this to the node candidates on how to do seamless onboarding on the EOSC node. So it is seamless because you motivated us to work on this way, to improve both the product and the processes and the documentation for us to be able to support you in this way. So I think it was a win-win situation. The number of the nodes, I think it was something that we could cope. I don't know what will happen in case if it will scale out, if we have 50 nodes or more. But hopefully now that we have the processes in place and the know-how in place, as you mentioned, and we have the right people in the right places, we may be in a position also to start working with more nodes than we currently have.
I'm going to continue with a follow-up question based on your experience working with other nodes in this build-up phase. We learned things in this build-up phase, right? Any best practices working with other nodes, like cross-node collaboration, things that should be in place with future colleagues that come in the federation as nodes?
I mean, if I can start from the EOSC node perspective, I would agree with what Jose said. I think in the beginning, at least, it's a people topic. If you have, from the beginning, the right people that are committed, commitment is, I think, the biggest word here. The onboarding and all the participation in the federation build-up phase, it's something that takes time. It's intense. You need to test the waters. You don't know sometimes what you're going to find. You don't know what would be required to do. You may have to develop things from scratch. So it needs people, dedicated people, expert people, and it needs commitment in both time and effort. And this needs to be budgeted beforehand, because then you always have a timeline that you're trying to meet, and you're always trying to catch up. But if you are well prepared and you expect that this will be the case, and you're better prepared, you have the opportunity to make a result that might change something, that might do the difference.
If I may follow up. I totally agree with this, and actually, besides that, I think there was something that, in my opinion, worked well as a practice, if you want, or a way of working, was the subgroups that were created. Because even if I take as an example the subgroup for the workflows, right? That at the beginning we went into it like Rihanna and Galaxy, and we didn't have like many common grounds, right? On what is going to happen here, how we're going to handle this, different use cases, similar approaches to certain things, but I think for us it was very inspirational as well. Like we learned a lot of things from your side, right? And that was a good practice, in my opinion, because then suddenly you see how to solve things in different ways. And this brought us also to discuss with the community, with the other nodes on, right, what can we do for Rihanna to do this use case and make it useful, right? And that's how we managed to actually enhance and evolve Rihanna. So there is a positive consequence also for the product at the end, right?
So I think what helped us a lot is the connection that we had in S3s, right? Or in our case, it was Elixir, but also the EOSC meeting that we had in Bristol, where all the EOS projects are coming together. They are talking to each other for these 2 days. This has also helped in the last, let's say, 3 or 4 years I was involved, to actually talk to these other EOS projects to know what's going on. And this is where we made connections so that we actually could in 8 months, in our case it was I think 11 EOS nodes involved, right? But without these connections that we actually established these 3 years before, I don't think that would be on that level important. So for me it boils down again to this people network that we have built over many years in EOS with different EOS projects to actually get to this level of interconnection and to also speak between services and learn from each other.
Thank you. Yeah, it is important to remember that the reason we have managed to reach this point, like with production services, with such achievements in the testing environment, is because of all the work that has happened before, EOSC-funded projects, the people network, and remembering it's a technical part and it's also a people part. So let us not forget this. So I'm going to take some questions from Slido. Maybe I'm going to answer some of them because it's not for the panel. So what is the future vision for onboarding? Will there be multiple catalogs? I assume this means nodes. Will there be multiple nodes? Yes. Is everything going to be on the EOU node just now because it's the only operational node? I just want to clarify that onboarding a service in the EOSC node was an option that was offered to node candidates like CERN, to test the waters, to see what happens before they become a node. And it's available only to node candidates of this builder group, no one else. It's not public. In the future, onboarding a service, your service is going to open up, right, when there's at least one more production node of the federation supporting onboarding as well. So you have the option to select what you want to do, where you want to bring your service. Now, I'm going to continue with a question for the panel, based on your opinions. Right? What is the future vision for onboarding? Oh, sorry. How do you see resource sharing once the federation moves to operational phase? Resources, compute, storage, data, credits, efficiency gains, ecosystem resilience. So think about the next step. Who would like to give it a go?
I can start. I mean, I think it's a quite interesting question in all fronts because maybe there is not currently the technical capability in place to answer it, and we're actually working on this. I mean, as we saw, the node enrollment had the one fundamental technical capability, the integration with the WAI that would enable single sign-on and cross-node workflows. I think the cross-node workflows is the thing that we need to focus our efforts right now and make sure that we start working on harmonized access policies between nodes and perhaps start discussing about the credit economy and if there are other nodes that want to support the credit ecosystem, either this or another credit economy, and start looking towards harmonized access policies and cross-node scenarios for access policies and credit economy. And because the credits on the EOSC node are used for resource management, and this, as Peter mentioned yesterday, they have proven to be successful in this past year of operations. And this is a concept that we need to work more on and also focus our efforts in the near future in the collaboration with the other nodes regarding either adopting this credit scheme or other credit schemes that could be interoperable with each other. And I think these are interesting topics to discuss for the future of the Federation.
Yeah, so I mean, two things that we try to develop to address this question is explicitly bring your own storage, bring your own compute. So essentially, in the Galaxy use case, you can bring your own resources, and this is then how we can scale up. So this is one model. But I guess the other answer that I have is that we have a different operation model, I think. We are job-based, we are not virtual machine-based. So we don't need to care a lot about users pulling down their VMs and not wasting resources, because we are just scheduling jobs. And then that way we can, to a certain degree, people have less freedom because they can do less instead of a VM, but we also have this resource consumption under more fine-grained control. So I guess it's less of a problem for us currently. At least we can scale to whatever these many thousand researchers. But still, if you hit a quota, a storage quota, etc., you can always go out and bring your own compute, your own storage. And this makes this federation relatively cool, because whatever EOSC node brings now an S3 bucket or some compute, right, you can plug that into the system, and then users with specific access in NFDI, or NFDI provides national resources to national researchers, right? They plug it into a French Galaxy server, and then they run with that. So this level of integration is, I think, our answer to this question.
I can follow up. So let's assume that in front of us, we don't only have this audience, but people also watching this video later. And they have to decide at some point in the near future whether they want to become a node, like go through all this process that he went through, or bring their services, onboard them in another node, right? Or perhaps they are a research group, they have a nice service, they have produced it through a research project. Does it also make sense to bring it in a node and then expose it to the federation? So think about these people watching this video. So based on your experiences, what would you tell them? Why should one aim to become a node? Why should one aim to just onboard the service? Or whether they should, in the first place, target to bring their service through all these technical hurdles and operational into the federation in the first place?
Well, I think, so from our point of view, it was more the common factor between the research infrastructures, right? So the thematic link was important, because there are many reasons for which these, like, we actually already work together between these research infrastructures, right? There are good reasons to do that. We just find a very good excuse to do that, but even in a better way to make it go through the EOSC and to actually bring the EOSC to our users, right? So this is one of the reasons why we thought that it would actually be quite important to connect on the thematic level, because that is, I mean, we're a thematic research infrastructure, so that is quite key for us. And then giving our users this common space where all of the relevant services, relevant data is available. So, well, I guess it also depends on who your user base is, right? I mean, I'm pretty certain this looks quite different for a national node, because they don't have, I mean, the common theme is not the thematic aspect, but probably the nationality, right? So, I mean, I guess it depends, but of course, I think it's important to be aware of what it means to go through this process. It's not easy, but we do believe in the bigger goal, so we do think that it is rewarding, or it will result into some nice fruits of this effort.
No, not much to add, to be honest. I agree with that. And it's not easy to say, shall you, as a new node, onboard services or create a new node, because it's a case per case, right? I mean, I think it's a double. You need to look, do you have services that can add value to the community beyond, to the rest of the community beyond your community, right? And then in that case, I would suggest, yeah, onboard it, you node in other nodes, right? Bring your value, share the knowledge, share the technology, and we all can benefit from it. But yeah, not an easy question to answer, yeah.
So if you have a national infrastructure that cares about research data management, that captures a a large chunk of your science landscape. I guess then this makes a perfect EOSC node, right? Not the biggest institute, but an infrastructure with many institutes that capture most of the scientists. I think that makes a nice national node. And the other thing is if you have a thematic, a community that cares about a very specific topic where you think the larger European landscape can benefit from it. So that's the two things that I see are the most important stuff which we could start with. And then let's see where we end up.
All right, thank you very much for the exciting panel conversation. Of course, before we close this session, other than a big thank goes to all of our panelists, I would also like to recognize the EOSC node contractors at this point. Of course, we have three consortia actually delivering this, and the core capabilities, Athena Research, EGI, OpenAir, Netcompany, Intrasoft, and all the subcontractors, as well as in the Lot 2 and Lot 3, which is the infrastructure and application services. We have PSNC from Poland as the main contractor, with SafeSpring, NordUnet, Sunet, and many other subcontractors underneath. So it's a great work that you guys all done and put into here. And actually, I particularly feel guilty for one decision that we made during the build-up phase. So maybe if I share that with you, I feel less guilty about. Is that we explicitly said that none of our contractors could apply for the first wave of onboarders for obvious reasons. So all the good work that these guys have done, imagine the mindset that you are on your toes, you are ready to step in and do, but you have to just step back and support all the others before you can go. I think that's a huge solidarity and absolutely good effort that you guys put in here. So I would like to appreciate that. Thank you so much.